My name is Walter Pierce, but most people have called me Grandpa Walt for years. I'm 78 years old, and on what should have been a simple, familiar moment, Christmas afternoon, sitting at my son's dining table, I learned exactly how I was seen. The house was full, food on the table, laughter that didn't reach me. Then my son's wife slid a single sheet of paper across the table. She smiled politely and said it was just something practical. It was an invoice for my Christmas stay, a breakdown of nights, utilities, food, a total at the bottom, circled neatly in pen. No one looked at me. They waited. I paid in cash, slowly, calmly, without asking a single question. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice, because in that moment I remembered something they clearly had forgotten. Years ago, when their business was nothing more than an idea and a risk no bank would touch, I stepped in. They called it a gift. They thanked me publicly. But what they never asked about again was the document I kept. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what they did to me. How being charged rent by my own family didn't break my heart. It clarified my position. And how a quiet visit to a lawyer on Boxing Day turned that little invoice into the most expensive piece of paper they'd ever handed me. But before I go on, let me ask you, have you ever stayed quiet, not because you were weak, but because you were counting? Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. To everyone who shares their stories here, who understands the weight of being taken for granted, thank you. You remind me that dignity doesn't expire with age. And if this is your first time listening, consider subscribing. This channel isn't about shouting. It's about patience and consequences. The drive to Dennis's house that Christmas Eve took 2 hours. I'd made it 100 times before, more, probably, but this time felt different in a way I couldn't name yet. Maybe it was the gray sky. Maybe it was the silence in the car. Or maybe it was the fact that my son hadn't called me in 3 weeks, not even to confirm I was still coming. I pulled into the driveway just after 4. The house looked like something out of a magazine. Stone facade, double doors with wreaths that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. The kind of place you see and think, someone made it. And they had. Dennis and Benedicta, his wife, owned a catering company now. Big clients, corporate events. They'd just opened a second location across the state. I knew because I'd seen it on their business's Instagram page, not because they'd told me. I grabbed my overnight bag from the trunk. Small, efficient. I've learned to travel light at my age. Benedicta answered the door before I knocked. "Walter," she said. Not Dad, not Merry Christmas, just my first name, delivered like I was a vendor she'd been expecting. She looked perfect. Hair pulled back. Cream-colored sweater. Everything about her said control. Come in," she added, stepping aside. "We're just finishing up in the kitchen." The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted meat. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. It was warm, almost too warm, but I didn't take off my coat right away. Dennis appeared from the hallway, drying his hands on a dish towel. "Hey, Dad," he said. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He looked tired, older than 45. "Good drive?" "Fine," I said. Traffic wasn't bad. We stood there for a moment, the 3 of us in that enormous foyer with its marble floors and chandelier, and nobody said anything real. "Kids are upstairs," Benedicta finally said. "They'll come down for dinner. Ivan's been glued to his video games and Bernice is wrapping presents, apparently." She laughed lightly, but it felt rehearsed. "That's fine," I said. "I'm just happy to be here." Was I? I wasn't sure anymore. Benedicta gestured toward the staircase. "We've got you in the guest suite again. Second door on the left. You remember?" I did. It used to be Ivan's room, back when this house was smaller, before the renovations, before everything got so big. I hauled my bag upstairs. The guest suite was spotless. White linens, a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, a little basket on the nightstand with bottled water and mints, like I was staying at a hotel. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt something settle in my chest. Not sadness, exactly. Just awareness. Dinner was at 6. The table was set like a showpiece. Cloth napkins, name cards, candles that probably cost more than they should. My spot was at the far end, across from Dennis. Benedicta sat at the head. The kids came down. Even, 12, barely looked up from his phone. Bernice, 9, gave me a hug that felt genuine and made my throat tighten. "Hi, Grandpa," she whispered. "Hi, sweetheart." We ate. The food was excellent. Of course it was, but the conversation was thin. Benedicta talked about the business. Dennis nodded along. The kids were quiet. I asked questions, tried to engage, but everything I said seemed to land wrong or get redirected. By dessert, I'd mostly stopped trying. Then, as I was finishing my coffee, Benedicta stood. She walked to the sideboard, opened a drawer, and pulled out a white envelope. She set it down in front of me, still standing. "Walter," she said. Her voice was calm, professional. "I wanted to talk to you about something before you leave." I looked at the envelope, then at her, then at Dennis, who was suddenly very interested in his napkin. "We've been thinking," Benedicta continued, "about how we structure family visits going forward. It's not personal. It's just that hosting does come with costs. Utilities, food prep, linens, cleaning services afterward." She slid the envelope closer. "So we've drafted a simple breakdown, just to keep things transparent." I opened it. Inside was a single sheet. Printed, itemized. Guest lodging, 3 nights, $450 meals, 4 persons, 9 meals, 287 utilities and amenities, $68 housekeeping and laundry services, $42 total. Due, 847 €. At the bottom, in neat handwriting, payment appreciated within 7 days. Thank you for understanding. I read it twice. The room was silent. Yvonne glanced up from his phone. Bernice looked confused. Dennis still wasn't looking at me. I folded the paper carefully. Slowly. Put it back in the envelope. Then I pulled out my wallet. I counted out 9 $50 bills, laid them on the table in a neat stack, added 2 20s, then 7 ones. $847. Exact. I slid the cash toward Benedicta. "There," I said quietly. "Invoice paid in full." Her face flickered, surprise, maybe relief, but she recovered quickly. "Thank you, Walter. I appreciate your understanding." I stood. "I think I'll turn in early," I said. "Long drive tomorrow?" Dennis finally looked up. "Dad." "Good night, son." I went upstairs. I sat on that hotel-perfect bed in that guest suite that used to be my grandson's room, and I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I did something worse. I remembered. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of anger, though that was there, simmering low and steady like a pilot light, but because I kept thinking about a day 15 years ago. A day Dennis and Benedicta probably barely remembered now. April 2010. Dennis was 30. Married 2 years. Benedicta was pregnant with Yvonne. And they were broke. Not struggling. Broke. Dennis had been let go from his job at a marketing firm during the recession. Benedicta was working part-time as an event coordinator, but the hours were inconsistent. They were 3 months behind on rent. Their car had been repossessed. I'd been sending them money quietly, 200 here, 300 there, but it wasn't enough. Then, one Saturday, they drove to my house. Not the house I live in now, the smaller one I had back then, the one I shared with Dora before she passed. It was modest. Paid off. The kind of place where you could hear every creak in the floorboards and the kitchen faucet dripped if you didn't turn it just right. They sat across from me at my kitchen table. Dennis did most of the talking. "Dad," he said, "we have an opportunity." He slid a folder across the table. Business plan. Printed and bound. They'd clearly spent hours on it. "A catering company," Dennis continued. "Small at first. Benedicta has the contacts. I can handle operations. We've got 2 clients already interested, both corporate contracts." Benedicta leaned forward. We just need capital to start. Equipment, licensing, a small commercial kitchen space. How much? I asked. Dennis hesitated. 180,000. I didn't flinch, but I also didn't answer right away. I'd spent 37 years as a long-haul truck driver, another 10 after that doing mechanical work, fixing engines, keeping my hands busy after Dora got sick. I'd saved carefully, lived below my means, never bought anything I couldn't pay for twice. That money, 180,000, it was everything I had outside my pension. It was supposed to be for emergencies, for medical bills, for the nursing home I knew I'd probably end up in someday. But sitting there, looking at my son, my only child, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Hope. I'll do it, I said. Benedicta's eyes went wide. Walter, are you sure? I'm sure. Dennis stood up and hugged me. Hard. The kind of hug I hadn't gotten since he was a boy. Dad, thank you. We're going to pay you back, I swear. Don't worry about that right now, I said. Just build something you're proud of. But here's the thing. I wasn't stupid. I'd been in business long enough, had seen enough deals go bad, enough handshakes that meant nothing, that I knew better than to rely on words. So 3 days later, I called a lawyer. His name was Ivan Kowalski. We'd gone to high school together, back when the world was smaller and everyone knew everyone. He'd gone on to law school. I'd gone into the service, then trucks, but we'd stayed in touch over the years. Christmas cards, the occasional beer. I met him at his office on a Tuesday morning. Walt, he said, shaking my hand. What brings you in? I told him. About Dennis, about Benedicta, about the money. Even listened, his face unreadable. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. You want to protect yourself, he said. It wasn't a question. I want to protect them, I corrected. From themselves. From what happens if this goes sideways. Ivan nodded. Smart. Family loans are tricky. Messy. People forget. Or they remember differently. He pulled out a legal pad. Here's what we'll do, he said. A formal loan agreement, terms, repayment schedule, interest rate, nothing predatory, just enough to keep it legally sound. I'll draft it, you'll sign it, they'll sign it, and we'll get it notarized. They're going to think I don't trust them, I said quietly. They might, Ivan said, but one day they'll understand, and if they don't, well, at least you'll have proof of what you gave them. The document was 3 pages. It outlined the $180,000 loan, a 10-year repayment window, interest at 6% annually, reasonable, well below market rate, deferred payments for the first 2 years to give them time to get the business going. It was fair, it was professional, it was insurance. I brought it to Dennis and Benedicta the following week. They were in their apartment, packing boxes. They'd just signed a lease on a small commercial kitchen space. The excitement was palpable. Before we finalize everything, I said, setting the folder on their counter, I need you to look at this. Dennis opened it. His face changed. Not angry, not hurt, just surprised. A loan agreement, he said. It's standard, I told him. Protects all of us. Makes everything clear. Benedicta read over his shoulder. Her jaw tightened slightly, but she didn't say anything. Dad, Dennis said slowly, you told us this was a gift. I said, don't worry about paying me back right away, I corrected gently. But this is a lot of money. My lawyer suggested we formalize it, just to keep everything clean. There was a pause, a long one. Then Benedicta smiled, tightly. Of course, she said. That makes sense. Dennis nodded. Yeah, sure, we'll sign it. We went to a notary that afternoon. They signed. I signed. Ivan signed as witness. And just like that, it was official. A loan, not a gift. On the drive home, I felt uneasy, like I'd done something wrong, even though I knew I hadn't. But I told myself it was fine, that one day they'd understand. They didn't. Or maybe they did. And that's why, 15 years later, sitting in their guest suite after being handed an invoice for Christmas dinner, I realized something. They'd never intended to pay me back. Not really. They'd rewritten the story in their heads, turned my sacrifice into an entitlement, my generosity into an expectation, and somewhere along the way, I'd become the inconvenience. I opened my phone, scrolled to Ivan's number. It was 11:47 p.m. I didn't call, not yet, but I saved the contact to my favorites, because I knew, quietly, certainly, that tomorrow everything was going to change. The next chapter is where I stop being the quiet old man they forgot about and become the problem they can't ignore, but you'll only see it if you're subscribed. Hit that button now. Like this video if you've ever had to protect yourself from people you loved. Comment "Remember" if you know what it's like to be taken for granted. And share this, because someone in your life needs to hear what happens when you finally stand up. Part 3 drops soon. Don't miss it. I left Dennis's house at dawn. No breakfast, no goodbyes. I slipped out while the house was still dark and quiet, my overnight bag in one hand, that envelope with the paid invoice in my coat pocket. The drive back should have taken 2 hours. I made it in 3. Because 40 minutes in, I pulled off the highway, parked at a rest stop, and called Ivan. It was 6:47 a.m. on Boxing Day. He answered on the third ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Walt, you okay?" "I need to see you," I said. "Today, this morning, if you can." There was a pause. I heard a movement on his end, sheets rustling, a woman's voice asking something I couldn't make out. "Give me 2 hours," Ivan said. "Meet me at the office." "Thank you." I hung up, sat there in my car, engine idling, watching a young family load their kids into a minivan 3 spaces over. The father was laughing. The mother was juggling coffee cups and a diaper bag. The kids were still in their pajamas. I wondered what their Christmas had been like. I wondered if they kept receipts. Ivan's office was in a small converted house on the edge of town. Brick exterior. Wooden sign out front that read Kowalski and Associates in fading gold letters. He'd been semi-retired for 5 years now, only taking clients he cared about. He was waiting for me when I arrived. The office smelled like old paper and coffee. Ivan looked exactly like I remembered. Thinner on top, thicker around the middle, but sharp-eyed as ever. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He poured me coffee from a carafe that looked older than my grandkids. Handed it to me without asking if I wanted any. "Talk," he said. So I did. I told him about the invoice, about the itemized charges for Christmas dinner, about the silence at the table, the way Dennis wouldn't look at me, the way Benedicta smiled when I paid it. Ivan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. "And you want to enforce the loan," he said. It wasn't a question. "I want to know if I can," I said carefully. Ivan opened a drawer, pulled out a thick accordion file, and set it on the desk between us. He'd kept everything. The original loan agreement, the notarized signatures, copies of the check I'd written, $180,000, dated April 14th, 2010. Even the business plan Dennis and Benedicta had given me, the one with the optimistic projections and the promises. Ivan flipped through the pages slowly. "The terms were clear," he said. $180,000, 6% annual interest, 10-year repayment period with 2 years deferred. They were supposed to start making payments in 2012. "Did they?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Ivan looked up at me. "Not a single one, Walt. Not in 15 years. The room felt smaller suddenly. "With compound interest at 6%, Ivan continued, running numbers on a calculator. "They currently owe you $431,712. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "That's legal, binding, enforceable." Ivan tapped the document. "They signed this. You have every right to collect." I stared at the number he'd written down. 431,612, nearly $500,000 from my son. There's more, Ivan said quietly. He pulled out his laptop, typed something, turned the screen toward me. It was a public business registry. Dennis and Benedicta's company, Pierce and Associates Catering, was listed with an estimated valuation of $2.1 million. They've done well, Ivan said. 2 locations now. Commercial clients. I did some digging this morning after you called. They just purchased a vacation property in Vermont last summer. Paid cash. $460,000. I felt my hands tighten around the coffee mug. They bought a second house, I said slowly, while owing me $400,000. Yes. And they charged me rent for Christmas. Yes. Ivan closed the laptop. Walt, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. I looked at him. What do you want out of this? He said. Do you want the money back? Do you want to hurt them? Do you want them to understand what they did? Because those are 3 different things, and the path forward depends on which one matters most. I sat there for a long time. Outside, a car drove by. Someone's dog barked, the normal sounds of a normal morning. I want them to see me, I said finally. Not as a bank, not as a convenience, not as someone who exists to make their lives easier. I want them to see what they did. I want them to feel it. Ivan nodded slowly. Then here's what I propose, he said. We send a formal demand letter. Legal, professional, through my office. It'll outline the original loan, the missed payments, the current amount owed. We'll give them 30 days to respond with either full payment or a structured repayment plan. And if they don't? Then we file a claim, take it to court. With this documentation, we'll win. Their business assets could be seized. Their properties could be liquidated. It won't be quick, but it'll be absolute. I thought about Benedicta's face when she handed me that envelope. I thought about Dennis looking at his napkin. I thought about Bernice hugging me and whispering, "Hi, Grandpa." "Do it," I said. Ivan pulled out a legal pad and started writing. We spent the next hour going over details. The letter would go out January 2nd. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. By the time I left Ivan's office, it was almost noon. I sat in my car in the parking lot and called my daughter-in-law's mother. Her name was Dora, same as my late wife, which had always felt like a strange coincidence. She answered on the second ring. "Walter, Merry Christmas. Well, day after. How are you?" "I'm fine, Dora. Listen, I need to ask you something. About Benedicta." A pause. "Okay. Did she ever mention to you that I loaned Dennis money? Back in 2010? Another pause. Longer this time. "She told me you gave them money to start the business," Dora said carefully. "A gift. She said you were very generous." "A gift," I repeated. "Yes. Why?" I closed my eyes. No reason, just wanted to make sure I remembered it right. We said our goodbyes. I sat there another 10 minutes. Then I drove home. That night, I couldn't eat. I made myself a sandwich and left it on the counter. Instead, I sat in my living room, the house I'd lived in for 12 years now, small and paid for and mine, and I pulled out a box from the hall closet. Photos, old ones. Dennis as a baby. Dennis learning to ride a bike. Dennis graduating high school. Dennis and Benedicta's wedding, where I'd walked him down the aisle because his mother wasn't there to do it. I found one photo near the bottom. Dennis and me, standing outside their first catering kitchen. He had his arm around my shoulder. He was smiling. Really smiling. I don't remember who took the picture, but I remember that day. He'd called me to come see the space. Wanted to show me what my money had built. "Dad," he'd said, "I'm going to make you proud." I put the photo back in the box, closed it, and for the first time since Christmas, I let myself feel it. Not anger, grief. The letter arrived at Dennis's house on January 4th. I know because Dennis called me at 9:32 that morning. I was in my kitchen making oatmeal when my phone rang. His name on the screen made my chest tighten, but I answered. Dad. His voice was different, flat, hard. Dennis? What the hell is this? I turned off the stove. You're going to need to be more specific. Don't. He stopped. I heard him breathing. Don't play games with me. I just got a letter. From a lawyer. Your lawyer. I said nothing. It says we owe you $400,000. It says you're demanding repayment within 30 days, or you're taking us to court. That's correct. Silence. Then, are you out of your mind? I gave you $180,000 15 years ago, I said calmly. You signed a loan agreement. You were supposed to start paying me back in 2012. You never did. Not once. That was a gift. No, I said. It was a loan. You signed paperwork saying it was a loan. It was notarized. It's legally binding. You told us not to worry about it. I told you not to worry about it right away. I gave you time. 2 years deferred. Then a repayment schedule. You ignored it. You ignored me. I heard a woman's voice in the background, Benedicta, sharp and urgent. This is insane, Dennis said. You can't do this. I can, and I am. Why? Because we asked you to chip in for Christmas? Jesus, Dad, if that hurt your feelings. You didn't ask me to chip in, I interrupted. You handed me an invoice. You itemized my visit like I was a customer. You charged me rent to sleep in a guest room and eat food at a table I wasn't welcome at. That's not. Yes, it is. Another pause. We'll fight this, Dennis said. His voice was shaking now. We'll get our own lawyer. We'll prove it was a gift. You signed a document that says otherwise. Good luck. I hung up. My hands were trembling. I set the phone down on the counter and stared at it, half expecting it to ring again. It didn't. Not that morning, anyway. The next call came 2 days later. Benedicta. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity maybe or stubbornness, made me pick up. Walter. Her voice was ice. We need to talk. I'm listening. You're trying to destroy us. I'm trying to collect a debt. You're trying to destroy us, she repeated. Do you have any idea what this will do? If word gets out that we're being sued by family, our clients will panic. Our reputation will... Your reputation, I said quietly, is built on my money. She went silent. I gave you everything I had, I continued. I trusted you. I believed you when you said you'd take care of me, and you charged me $800 to eat Christmas dinner. That was a mistake, she said. Her voice cracked slightly. I was trying to set boundaries, to make things more professional between us. I didn't mean... You meant exactly what you did. Walter, please, we can fix this. We can pay you back. Just give us time. Don't take this to court, please. I closed my eyes. For a moment, just a moment, I almost believed her. Almost. You had 15 years, I said. That was the time. I hung up. Ivan called me that afternoon. They hired a lawyer, he said. Got the notice this morning. Some guy out of Boston. Expensive. Can they win? No. Not with the documentation we have. But they can make it slow, painful, costly. And Walt, there's something else. What? They're claiming you were abusive. Not physically, emotionally. They're saying you used money to control Dennis his whole life. That this loan was made under duress. I felt the floor shift under me. That's a lie. I know, but it's a narrative. And if they push it publicly, if it gets to court and they start telling that story, people will believe it. Some will. I sat down heavily in my chair. What do we do? We stay the course, Ivan said. We have the facts, the signatures, the timeline. But Walt, I need you to be ready. This is going to get ugly. That night, I got a text message from Bernice, my 9-year-old granddaughter. It said, "Grandpa, why is Mom crying?" I stared at that message for 20 minutes, tried to figure out what to say. How do you explain to a child that sometimes the people you love hurt you so badly that you have to hurt them back just to survive? How do you tell her that fairness and family don't always fit together? I typed, "It's grown-up stuff, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." She wrote back, "Are you mad at us?" My throat tightened. "I'm not mad at you. I love you." "Okay, I love you too, Grandpa." Merry Christmas. I put the phone down, walked to the window, stared out at the dark street, the neighbor's porch light, the empty mailbox at the end of my driveway. And for the first time since this started, I wondered if I'd gone too far. If maybe revenge wasn't justice. If maybe I'd just broken something that could never be fixed. But then I thought about that invoice, about the neat handwriting at the bottom, payment appreciated within 7 days, about sitting in that guest room feeling like a stranger in my own son's life. And I knew I couldn't stop now, even if I wanted to. The next chapter is where everything falls apart, where the consequences become real, where I have to decide if winning is worth what it's going to cost me. But here's the thing. I'm not telling you what happens unless you're subscribed, because this story, it's not just mine anymore, it's yours too. Hit subscribe, hit like, drop a "if Bernice's text broke you," comment "too far" if you think I should stop, or comment "finish it" if you think they deserve what's coming. Share this with someone who understands what it means to stand your ground. 3 weeks passed, the longest 3 weeks of my life. Dennis didn't call, Benedicta didn't call, but Ivan did. "They've filed a counterclaim," he said. "They're asking the court to declare the loan invalid. They're also requesting a restraining order, claiming you're harassing them." "I haven't contacted them once," I said. "I know, the judge will see that. But Walt, it's going to trial. Probably March. You need to prepare yourself." I hung up and sat in the silence of my house. Wondered how it had come to this. Then, on January 28th, something changed. I got an email from someone named Daniel Torres. The subject line read, "Regarding Dennis Pierce, professional inquiry." I almost deleted it. But something made me open it. "Mr. Pierce, my name is Daniel Torres. I'm a vendor relations manager at Harrington Industries. We've been a client of Pierce & Associates Catering for 3 years. I'm reaching out because we recently became aware of some concerning financial irregularities involving your son's company. Specifically, an unpaid debt to a family member that was misrepresented as investment capital in their business filings. Our company takes vendor integrity seriously. We're currently reviewing our contract with Pierce & Associates and wanted to confirm the details before making any decisions. Would you be willing to speak with me?" I read it twice. Then I called Ivan. "What do I do?" "Nothing," he said immediately. "Don't respond. Don't engage. This could be construed as interference with their business." "But they lied to their clients." "That's not your problem." "Isn't it?" I said. "If they're claiming my loan was a gift to make their financials look better, isn't that fraud?" Ivan went quiet. "I'll look into it," he said finally. 2 days later, Dennis called. I answered. "Dad." His voice was broken, raw. "We need to talk, in person." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please, just please, I'm begging you." Something in his tone made me pause. "Where?" "Your place, tomorrow. Just you and me. No lawyers, no Benedicta." I hesitated. 1 hour, I said. "That's all you get." Dennis showed up at 2 p.m. He looked terrible. Thinner. Pale. Dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in weeks. I let him in. We sat in my living room. The same living room where he used to do homework as a kid, where we watched football on Sundays, where everything used to be simple. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Dennis said, "We're losing everything." I didn't respond. Harrington Industries dropped us. So did 2 other clients. Word got out about the lawsuit, about the debt. Our vendors are demanding upfront payment now. The bank is reviewing our lines of credit. He put his head in his hands. "We might have to close one of the locations. Maybe both." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said quietly. Are you? He looked up at me, and his eyes were red. Are you really? Or is this what you wanted? What I wanted, I said, my voice steady, was to be treated like family. Not like a customer, not like an inconvenience, like your father. I know. His voice cracked. I know, Dad, and I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Are you sorry for what you did, or sorry you got caught? He flinched. Benedicta. She thought she was protecting us. She thought if we kept things transactional, professional, it would be cleaner, less complicated. She didn't understand. Didn't understand what? That you're not a business partner. You're my father. I felt something shift in my chest. Then why didn't you stop her? I asked. Why did you sit there, silent, while she handed me that invoice? Dennis closed his eyes. Because I was ashamed, he whispered. Ashamed that we hadn't paid you back. Ashamed that we'd spent money on a vacation house while you were living in this. He gestured around my small living room. While you were alone. I thought if I just stayed quiet, it would go away. The guilt, the debt, all of it. It doesn't go away, Dennis. I know that now. We sat in silence. I found something, Dennis said finally. He pulled out an envelope from his coat pocket, set it on the coffee table between us. I picked it up. Inside were checks, 12 of them, each one for $2,000, made out to me, dated from 2012 to 2023, all signed by Dennis, none of them mailed. I wrote one every year, he said quietly. On the anniversary of when you gave us the money, I was going to send them. I was going to start paying you back. But every year, something came up. An expense. An opportunity. Benedicta said we needed to reinvest in the business, and I convinced myself you didn't need it, that you'd understand. I stared at those checks. $24,000. 12 years of intention without action. This doesn't change anything, I said, but my voice wavered. I know, Dennis said, but I need you to know. I never forgot. I never stopped owing you, and I never stopped feeling like I was failing you. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I saw it. Not the successful businessman, not the ungrateful child, just Dennis, my boy, scared, ashamed, trying. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to drop the lawsuit, he said. Not because I don't owe you, I do, but because I'm asking you to give me one more chance. Let me pay you back on my terms. Not through a court order, through choice. And Benedicta? She's moving out, Dennis said quietly. We're separating. Not because of you, because of us. Because somewhere along the way we stopped being partners and started being something else. I felt my throat tighten. The kids? They'll stay with me. We're figuring it out. He leaned forward. Dad, I can't fix 15 years in one conversation, but I can start, if you let me. I looked at those 12 checks again. Thought about that invoice. Thought about Bernice's text. Are you mad at us? Thought about Dora, my wife, not Benedicta's mother, and what she would say if she were here. She'd tell me I'd made my point. She'd tell me to let him try. I want monthly payments, I said finally. $3,000 a month, non-negotiable, automatic transfer, and if you miss one, just one, we're back in court. Dennis nodded quickly. Done. And I want dinner with my grandkids. Once a week, no invoices, no awkwardness, just family. Done. And Dennis? Yeah? If you ever make me feel like a burden again, we're finished. Not just the money, all of it. Do you understand? He met my eyes. I understand. I dropped the lawsuit on February 3rd. Yvonne tried to talk me out of it. Walt, they owe you $400,000. You have them dead to rights. I know. So why walk away? I'm not walking away, I said. I'm choosing something different. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Your call. The first payment arrived on February 15th, $3,000, exactly on time. So did the second one, and the third. Dennis called me every Sunday. Not long conversations, just check-ins. "How are you, Dad?" "I'm fine. You?" "Getting there." Bernice started texting me more often. Pictures of her school projects, questions about my day, small things, but they mattered. In March, Dennis invited me to dinner, at his house, just him and the kids. I almost said no, but I didn't. The house felt different without Benedicta there. Quieter, less perfect, more real. We ate spaghetti, Dennis's cooking, which was terrible but earnest. Ivan, my 12-year-old grandson, barely looked up from his plate, but Bernice sat next to me and talked about everything. "Grandpa, do you think Mom and Dad will get back together?" I looked at Dennis. He looked at me. "I don't know, sweetheart," I said honestly, "but whatever happens, they both love you. That won't change." She nodded, satisfied with that answer in the way only kids can be. After dinner, as I was leaving, Dennis walked me to my car. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me." I looked at him. "I'm your father," I said. "That's not something I can quit." 6 months later, I got a letter. From Benedicta. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. "Walter, I owe you an apology. Not the kind you give because someone's forcing you to, but the kind that's been sitting in your chest for months and you finally have the words for." That invoice was cruel. It was my way of controlling something I felt was slipping away. Not you, but my own sense of security. I thought if I could make everything transactional, I wouldn't have to feel guilty about what we owed you, about how we'd forgotten. I was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know. What you did, holding us accountable, it didn't destroy us. It woke us up. Dennis is a better father now, a better man. And me? I'm working on being better too. Thank you for not letting us get away with it. Benedicta. I folded the letter carefully, put it in the same drawer where I kept those 12 unmailed checks. Not as evidence, as a reminder that people can change, if you give them room to. It's been a year now since that Christmas. Dennis has paid me $36,000. He has $400,000 more to go. At this rate, he'll be paying me back for the rest of my life. Maybe his kids' lives too. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Because this was never really about the money. It was about being seen. About standing up when you've been pushed down. About teaching the people you love that grace and accountability aren't opposites. They're partners. I'm 79 now. I don't know how much time I have left. But I know this. My son calls me every Sunday. My grandkids know my voice. And when I sit down at their table, no one hands me a bill. That invoice, the one that started all this, I still have it. Framed in my office, not as a trophy, as a reminder. That sometimes the hardest battles we fight aren't with strangers. They're with the people we love most. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't walk away. It's stay and demand better. If this story moved you, I need you to do something for me. Subscribe to this channel. Because stories like this, stories about real people facing real pain and finding real solutions, they matter. And I'm going to keep telling them. Hit that like button. If you believe standing up for yourself doesn't mean giving up on family, share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's been taken for granted, overlooked, underestimated. Comment below and tell me, what would you have done? Would you have dropped the lawsuit, or would you have taken them for everything? I read every single comment. This is Walter Pierce's story, but it's also yours, mine, ours, because we've all been there, stuck between love and self-respect, between mercy and justice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, dignity doesn't expire with age. See you in the next story.